All right. Hey, guys, welcome to the channel or welcome back to the channel. We're the Mile High Property Brothers getting into one of our lives. It's Tuesday evening. Eli, my man, what's up? Eli, by the way, your hair is looking phenomenal. I don't know if everyone gives enough compliments for that. I'm always asking you, hey, should I wear a hat? Should I not wear a hat? Now that you start growing your hair out, I'm not sure where your hair came from. Everyone knows I shaved. By the way, you look,
I know it came from Miami. Shout out to my clinic down there. Full disclosure.
It looks amazing. Today's gonna be a lot of fun. We're getting into the new year. We're just ahead, about maybe almost a week into the new year. This is everyone's like first real week back to work and things like that. So today's big topic of discussion is just getting direct to consumers with all of you and talking about the 2026 market and beyond. Some things as far as what they're talking about when it comes to mortgage rates, but more importantly, just what we're seeing with our home market. We're going to analyze the past 5 years, compare it to what we're seeing right now, and mainly just break this down in layman's terms, and not necessarily layman's terms. Everyone's pretty smart that comes on, but breaking it down in a very practical sense of what it means on your friction points as a buyer and as a seller here in Colorado, and then obviously where we can help you guys with any of those needs.
100%. And again, this is live, guys. So, we see a lot of you guys on here, the same people every week. Again, chime in, let us know you're here. We love hearing where you guys are from. So again, this is live. So utilize the chat function, ask your questions live in real time. That's exactly why we like doing this, is so that you guys can have just direct real-time access to us. So like Will said, this is going to be basically going over some previous year's data as far as Denver's housing market, and not necessarily predicting, but maybe forecasting a little bit of what we are thinking is going to come in 2026, and not just us, but also just a lot of stats. There's an organization here in Colorado called DMAR. That's a Denver Metro Association of Realtors. They are all about the stats. They release some really good reports that we'll be going over with you guys today. So some interesting things, and this is applicable whether you are currently living in Colorado, because obviously, you're part of the housing market. So this obviously applies to you, or whether you're looking to move to Colorado. We are going to talk about some timing in terms of, if you are a seller, when's the best time to sell this year? If you're a buyer, when's the best time to buy this year? So whether you're a seller or buyer, definitely chime in. Feel free to, get any questions answered. And while we're here.
Yeah, this is fun. I always enjoy, Eli, what I call applied analytics, like having access to numbers. You've got abundance of that nowadays. But the hard part is there's just a lot of opinions that involved, and very rarely are the opinions coming from people that are actually boots on the ground, helping clients buy, helping clients sell, and really having those real conversations. And, a lot of times you'll hear in real estate, oh, hey, it's always a great time to buy. And it's always a great time to sell. And those things get cliche. You hear it on social media all the time. From a real estate standpoint, where I tend to see it a lot, Eli, is it's not so, like, a lot of folks buy and sell because of wants and things like that, and they try to time it the best they can. But more times than not, from our experience, people need to sell. People need to buy. There's job promotions. There's job transitions. There's downsizing and kids going to college, and you want to have some affordability to help them with college. There's upsizing because we've got more kids now and we need a bigger home. And it tends to come from more of a necessity than it does just, hey, I've got some time on my hands and I kind of want to do something like this. Let's go ahead and do it. And really what comes down to whether it's a perfect time to buy or sell right now, or if you have some time, whether you can wait a little while or not, it really just comes down to personally, what are your circumstances? And then what do you value? Are you looking to get the most price for your house? Is there a transition you're looking at making and it's more time sensitive and things like that? Or if you're a buyer, depending on your goals and what you're looking for and what matters to you, there is a way to time it if you do have some flexibility, but at the same time, it's really trying to just make sure this data makes sense to you guys as far as your circumstances and what it looks like for you. This old timer remembers when Colorado 470 was only 20K. I'm a native. Eli's almost a native. I remember when gas was 98 cents, and it was awesome. And I definitely remember some of these things as well. And I like saying something to that comment, Eli, because ever since I turned 40, anyone, as you know, Eli, because you're about 6 months younger than me, anyone, once I turned 40, anyone that was 39 and a half or younger, good kid.
That's right.
Good kid. So, I'm a part of the old time crew now. I'm part of the old timer crew now, and I'm having fun with it. But, Eli, I appreciate you gathering all these numbers, and we're going to have a great time with this tonight and really just get down to
absolutely. So let's go ahead and start off with just a quick summary here of the DMAR report here. Now, what they've pulled up, we always go for the month behind, right? So I'm just going to look quickly just at December of 2025, and then we're going to jump into some actual figures and things like that for 2026 market predictions here. So just at a quick glance here, let me actually move our photos over to this side. Oh, we'll go here. There we go. All right, so we're looking at a median close price of $575,000. This is for Denver metro area, and this is taking into account detached and attached properties. That's important because we're going to talk about how those appreciate a little bit later here. Which that is just month over month. That's down 0.86%, kind of a point that doesn't really matter here if we're just looking December to November. Also keep in mind here that we are going to see traditionally lower inventory here in December. So to give you guys an idea of what months of inventory means right now, this says we have basically 2.5 months of inventory. That means from these December numbers, if not a single house went on the market after this date, it would take 2.5 months for us to run out of homes. And a balanced market, Will, correct me if I'm wrong, is about 6 months of inventory, correct?
You're only wrong because your camera's a little blurry. Tap the finger on there. And make sure make sure you're
focusing. There we go. It shows focus now.
Does it? Yeah, maybe it's a connection. You're a little blurry.
Yeah, it might be.
Yeah, it's starting to clear up a little bit. It is, but here's what I'll say, Eli, from a practical standpoint. For the longest time, in Colorado, almost for our entire careers, I've been around in real estate for about a decade. Eli around the same. There was about 6-7 years where we had 2 to 3 weeks of inventory.
Yep.
But that inventory was consistent and it was evolving and it was revolving. So there was always things on the market for folks to have choice of. There just wasn't a ton and things were being sold a lot quicker. Now you're going from, when we were talking post-COVID and super low interest rates at a 1.9% to 2.5%, you were hovering around 2 to 3 weeks of inventory. Now we're at about 2 to 2.5 months of inventory. So that's still considered what, Eli? That's still considered a buyer's market, correct?
Yeah, seller's market. Yeah, seller's market, because
you have 6 months or more, then you've got a buyer's market. But we've never seen it. We've never seen it. But what we have seen, whether it's been 2 or 3 weeks of inventory or 2 to 2.5 months of inventory, we've seen a consistent flow. I know you've got some great numbers today. We're going to talk about the price point from 2020. We're going to look at that 35% increase in price point to 2022, but then how it's been consistently and how that price point is held. And, later on in the show, that's going to matter because what we have seen, whether it's been a couple weeks of inventory or a couple months, some might see like, man, that's a drastic change and things slow down a lot. Like, well, subjectively compared to where we were, it did slow down, but figuratively to just what we consider a healthy market, it hasn't necessarily slowed down in Colorado. That's still a 2.5 month of inventory versus 6 months of inventory. We're still considered very healthy and very consistent. So, it's like driving 170 miles an hour. Not that I've ever done that, allegedly, right? You slow down to 120 and you feel like you're going slow, but 120 is not slow. So when you're looking at the market that we had with 1.9% interest rates and 2 weeks of inventory on the market, all the way to now we're at 2 months to 2.5 months, it feels like there's been a shift. But the reality is it's almost like the market is starting to buoyant itself back out to a healthy market. The consistency of, hey, we had an increase in price points, but they've held for the past 4 to 5 years. That's a great sign. 2.5 months of inventory. That's actually a healthy market for you to have enough time to go look at some homes and make some decisions on what you guys want. And we've got about a handful of clients that are already under contract in January already for 2026. And it's been just that. The past 3 months, we've really had that healthy market, Eli, of clients going out with us and being able to see homes and not leaving and going under contract the second they walk out the door. They've had time to really make decisions and analyze what's important to them. And so, again, it's really looking at, it looks like everything is starting to come back around to just being a healthier market for everybody. You got to be better at selling your home. You got to be more appealing, more competitive, and more open-minded to what you can do for buyers. But, hey, buyers, you have the opportunity to really go out and have people earn your business and really search for what you're looking for in a home.
Yep. Now, man, I'm glad you said that sellers have to do a great job selling their home, because I love this market. And to me, it does feel very balanced in the sense of 2 things. Buyers have choices that are out there, right? You don't have to jump on the first home that you see just because it's available.
Right.
But most importantly, and this part I love because we're very particular about our listings and our listing process, is that your sellers are being held accountable. Meaning if you overprice a home, it's going to sit on the market. if you don't put a good quality product on the market as a seller, it's going to sit. If your pictures are crappy, it's going to sit. And that killed me in 2020 and 2021 when you were seeing just anything and everything sell despite, how it looked on market, what the sellers did to it or not. And I feel like this is just a great market for
That's where it
buyers
got
and sellers.
damaging. And you weren't, and listen, just for the record, you weren't necessarily in a better position buying a home when there was a 1.9% interest rate because you're probably throwing 100 grand cash over asking price versus now you're at moderate interest rates, but you still have sellers that have plenty of equity in their home because our home prices have sustained. They've got equity. They can help buyers with 2 or 3 1 buy downs. You can still get a great rate working with sellers that are motivated to sell and put yourself in a great situation, just be a little bit more dynamic. So my opinion, as we get into more of these details, we're in a healthier market. I also want to make it clear, Eli, I'm not smiling at you and your hair. I'm smiling because I always love reading the comments that are popping up.
100%.
Someone's like, oh, allegedly, interesting, like allegedly. And by the way, it's not 170. I've gone way faster than 170. But it seems like we've got some fun folks in the crowd. Some of these folks remember Castle Rock when it only had one traffic light. Those are fun because they've seen the evolution of Colorado. And there are some growing pains to that. Sometimes like, man, has it gotten too big? When you're looking at across the country and how unincorporated we still are, a lot of great things, but it's fun to get some perspective, inside of that as well. And we're going to cover that. I try to get the comments the best I can. I know we can't always get to all of them because we're trying to cover the actual material, but Eli, now that we've kind of got the intro out of the way of like getting back to what a healthy market looks like, why that is actually healthy for sellers and what that looks like. And listen, sellers, by the way, just to kind of cap this before we get into the data and move on, it wasn't necessarily a great time to sell when it was 1.9% interest rates and you got 30 offers on your house because 98%, and don't quote me, I'm using that loosely. The majority of people that were selling because they had to, and they also had to turn around and go buy.
100%.
Yeah, they got some great money for their home and it was under contract in 15 minutes. They had to turn around and go compete, and they weren't that excited about that process. So again, when we talk about things becoming healthier, yes, you have to be a better product as a seller. Yes, you have to be more of a team player. People aren't just going to buy it no matter what because that's the only house available. It's okay to also leave a great home for the next folks that are coming. And the majority of folks do have great homes. So it's just great. There's better things we can do as sellers. Buyers are really getting time to make sure it's the right home. So you're going to see the people that are putting in contracts, you have less and less change of hearts and things like that. And it's a healthier market. And again, after people sell, they're just that much more likely to have a great, opportunity now to go buy. So in my opinion, 2026 is a significantly healthier market than that crazy show that we were kind of diving into. Right. But capping that, Eli, cap that as well, if you like, and then we can get into some of these main talking.
So let's do this. So before we talk more about 2026, I just want to recap with you guys just very briefly, kind of some of the appreciation that we saw during our COVID boom, and not just us, but the entire country, the entire housing market, and then what it's looked like the past couple of years, and then what we're going to foresee coming into the new year here. So in between March of 2020 and April of 2022, so basically a 2-year spread there, we saw 38.5% appreciation. Okay. Now, running altitude, you left a comment here about one of the issues is home affordability for first-time home buyers, 100%. Our median home price right here we saw in December was $575,000 for attached and detached homes. Here's what's interesting is, 40% of that's 40% higher than it was pre-pandemic, so pre-March 2020. But what's really interesting, and this is where I chalk it up to just Colorado being a great state where people want to live, is we haven't seen that price really change. A lot of people during that 40% run up were saying that, hey, this is a bubble. It's going to pop. I'm waiting for the market to crash. And basically all that we've seen is stabilization from 2023 to 2025. There's been maybe 1% to 2% fluctuations on attached homes. It's been up to 4% and 5%. So people are really feeling the affordability issue when you have a $500,000 townhome and a $600 HOA, right? The HOAs on those townhomes and condos are really hurting people.
Correct. And listen, like, and being a native of Colorado, this is the hard pill to swallow. The cat's out of the bag. A lot of us that are natives, a lot of us that have been here for 20 years plus, it's like we can't like haven't people figured out how amazing Colorado is? No. And then no one tell them. And then okay, the Mile High Property Brothers on YouTube telling everybody you brought the 80,000 people here, and we get jokes about that as well. But the reality is, Denver just hasn't quite been people. It hasn't been what it's actually worth. Now that you're starting to get more people that can work remotely, and everything that's happened flexibility wise with careers and different opportunities that you've had with different companies since post-COVID, you've seen a lot of people have the freedom to really live where they'd like. And you're starting to get a lot of people that are coming here that are really enjoying the value and just the culture and the nature and the atmosphere of Colorado. If you go to major states that are expensive, the Californias, the Illinois, the Floridas, the New Yorks, you do have affordable homes in certain areas. They're just outside of the city. Where we've been spoiled a little bit in Colorado is we want those amazing prices and we still want to be in the heart of Denver. And that's where you're really starting to see these increases because they're starting to have these new developments downtown. You've got master plan communities that are happening, and they're all happening within that 37-minute and in, proximity as far as like to the heart of downtown Denver. Sloan's Lake has got some great things, and you've had some scrapes and some rebuilds there. South Park Hill, you've got, Wash Park. There's been a lot of great developments that have happened that have definitely driven average price points up. However, true to any other state, if you start getting a little bit further out and you're okay to be outside of like that 37 to 40-minute mark from downtown, and you are finding other places down south, out east, there are some great places. Yes, you do have to commute a little bit more, but this is what I'm getting at. And it's we've just been spoiled, myself included. Things have been so affordable right in the heart of Denver, and it's just not going to be that way. But if you look at every other state, when Texas blew up and grew and Florida became super popular and places in California that have always been popular, never in your mind were you thinking you were going to be 30 minutes or 15 minutes from downtown San Diego or downtown LA and have a certain average price point. But there still is affordability as you start to venture out a little bit further. Colorado's in that phase where there are still some things that are affordable. They're just a little bit further out than the heart of where we've all been used to being able to just have that. And again, we're just a little spoiled. The cat's out of the bag. People are really starting to see what Denver is and Colorado is. And you've got some major developments coming that are going to continue to bring it. However, the benefit to that, even if it creates a little bit more of a commute for folks that want to live in certain price points, it is great for our overall economy and our overall equity of what we do own. So whether you're in the heart or you're going to venture out just a little bit, you've got some great spots. Correct. Strasburg, you've got some great things that are happening. Matter of fact, Strasburg just hit the list for, I think, number 3 most affordable city in Colorado. There was a top 10. I know for sure Strasburg is on the top 10. I want to say they were in the top 5 of most affordable. And you've got some places in Elizabeth out where Eli is at. That's amazing. And he's right at that 40-minute mark. And what's cool, Eli, is some of these places that are on the outskirts that used to be less desirable because you didn't have to live there for certain price points, they're kind of desirable now. And that's driving up some of those areas to level up and do some cool things in those communities. So either way, it does create a little bit more commute, but it is overall better for our economy, better for these outskirts towns and just what we can do. And I will say we're still pretty unincorporated. Colorado is not jam-packed like California and every other place. So there is some things, but if we're being transparent, guys, we've been really spoiled here in Colorado, and now we got to kind of answer the bell. And there's some demand coming, and Colorado's just been amazing for a long time, and now we're starting to catch wind.
I think it's definitely safe to say we're just never going to see $300,000 single family homes again, right? That part's done. But I think it's also worth noting that with all of these new developments that we've been featuring over the past few weeks on our lives, like the new Broncos Stadium development, the River Mile development, the Ball Arena development, a major push for all of those is incorporating affordable housing within those developments. So those will be attached. Those will be condos, townhomes, things like that. But there is a major push. Everyone's aware of it in Colorado. So I do think there will be a lot more intention behind creating affordable housing opportunities.
Correct. And that is a great point. You are going to have some great studios and some great one-bedroom opportunities where you don't necessarily need a ton of space and you can get some things affordable. Another comment, bought 2 homes, no HOA, low taxes. You cash flow, which is great. Your name's Chevy.
Dang, you're cash flowing $4,800 a month. That's crazy.
Yeah, and hey, throw me a message on Instagram if you got some cool trucks. I'm in the market for an old square body, old 70 square body. But either way, a lot of great things. But again, Colorado, we've been getting an amazing state at a great price for a long time. All of us kind of knew it's only a matter of time before some things value. But I do like where we're at as far as our economy. I like how well our prices have sustained the past 4 to 5 years after it had that increase, you didn't see a huge dump. And I like some other things that we're going to dive into. And if you guys have questions on this more specifically, to your circumstances, we can throw a QR code up on the screen right now. You guys can hover over this. You guys can schedule a phone call with myself or with Eli. We call these our Zoom calls. These are our discovery calls. So specific to anything that you guys have with your circumstances, whether you're selling or buying and you're local or you're out of state and you're looking for some things that we can help you. We are the guys who answer these phone calls once you guys book them. Happy to help you with any specifics that you guys might have.
Okay, so let's dive into some more of these numbers as far as where we're starting 2026. Okay, so this is more of a snapshot as far as where we are right now. Okay, now, you may have seen in the headlines about, Denver's dropping in value. They're dropping in value. Well, we just saw that we're stable on value. As a matter of fact, year over year, detached homes were up 0.5%. To me, that's stable, right? It's not a massive increase. It's remained flat, but it definitely hasn't gone down. What a lot of those headlines are referencing is homes that are closing for under list price. Okay. Now, to even give you some perspective as far as that goes, the median sale price to list price ratio. So basically a house is listed here. Where did it actually close? Was 98.9%. So basically 99%. So that means that on average, homes all across the Denver metro market sold 1% under what they were listed at. So again, if you're waiting for the market to crash, the market's not going to crash. If you're also thinking as a buyer that, hey, it's a buyer's market right now, there's going to be a fire sale and I can come in drastically under ask price and win a home, not necessarily the case. We have gotten some massive wins for buyers where we have gotten 50 grand under ask price, 70 grand under ask price, but that's not the norm. If you're looking at the norm, it's on average 1% under the list price is what homes are actually closing for. Correct. Now, to give you guys some more data on that, about 58.2% of homes sold under list price last year, 2025. 18% sold for over list price. That's a good chunk. I mean, we're almost at a quarter there. And then the rest sold at list price. And
the rest sold at list price. And what I want you guys to understand, when you guys are looking at the market and where people decide to sell their homes at, you have to remember it's a very educated estimate if they're working with their listing agents and they're doing a great job. As you start to see an increase in the market like we had from 2020 to 2022, and things are jumping as high as 38%. As people start to sell their homes, even after the market is starting to settle down, you don't know it's really settled down until you feel the slowdown. So people are putting their homes on the market for a consistent increase of what they think they can get based off of the pace of increase that you've seen the past 3 to 6 months prior to you trying to sell your home. So there's going to be this buffer of people trying to sell for a certain price and it not working, and they bring it back down to where it does sell. And then that kind of sets a new standard for the people that sell after them that might put their home on the market 3 to 6 months after that. So that's like your buoyancy marker. There's going to be a little bit of ebb and flow there because, guys, the market is just people. You don't know people aren't going to buy something for a certain price until they don't buy it. There's no predictable, there's no anything. It's really just consumer behavior and what they're looking for, what they're okay with, what they're not okay with. So by default, you're going to have an increase in home prices like we had. By default, you're going to have people trying to just continue to project that increase, and either an appraisal is going to catch it or people just not willing to spend that are going to catch it. So whether they're under contract and the appraisal brings it slightly back down and they renegotiate at a new sale price, or people just don't offer on the home because it's too high and they bring it back down, you're going to get some of these variables until you have enough pattern in the market to show the adjustment. Once you show the adjustment, people that put their house on the market after that, they assess. And that's why the rest of that sounds really consistent, because the market made an adjustment. We now have enough data, as you guys know, county records updating and actually being able to see sold homes and trying to call realtors to see what it sold for before county records even updates it. We need enough data to really see that, right? So this is why things tend to adjust every 3 to 6 months, because you just you don't really know what people are doing until you've got some data to show what people are doing. So in my opinion, that's just a very predictable, not predictable, but a very adequate ruffle there, Eli, as things were kind of starting to stabilize. But what we did see was we didn't drop significantly. We had the 38% increase, and it didn't go up, but it stayed. And honestly,
Yep.
like, I'm okay that it stayed. We don't necessarily need to have $40 million homes in Denver, Colorado, right? Like, it did not need to keep going up like Southern California. I feel like it leveled itself out exactly where it should be. And I feel like part of that is just us having a healthy economy.
Yep, I agree. But I think it's safe to say that it's not a bubble, but it's also safe to say that, the market's not going to crash, right? And then, running altitude, great point. You mentioned sellers need to focus on realistic pricing. Here's what I have to say to that. What buyers should be focusing on right now is not necessarily the home price, but payments. Payments are the most important thing for buyers to be focusing on right now, because there are so many tools in the toolbox that we have when we're going through negotiations, because that interest rate is going to be the biggest determining factor as far as what your pricing is. Let's say a seller drops a house $20,000, that's going to change your mortgage payment like $86, right? It's not going to be that big of a difference.
But if they give you that $20,000 in concession to buy your rate down, you've got a significantly better payment. And then the conversation becomes, hey guys, this is why it's okay if we're chasing your rate and getting you a better rate than worrying about the overall price of the home, because the prices of homes have maintained. Yep. You don't need to get your home at such a better price point because you're worried about your home not being worth what you bought it for. We've got a history, even after a 38% increase of homes, you now have a consistency of showing homes still held that value. So if you're going to pay $450 on a home instead of $430, use that $30,000 to buy your rate down 2 points. And have a $1,200 less payment. And obviously you don't have that much on a $400,000 payment, but let's say you're buying a home for $1 million on a $1 million or a $1.2 million home. You're going to need roughly $25,000 to $30,000 on a 1.5 or a 2 point buy down. And that's definitely going to help a ton with where your price point is at on your monthly payment versus us having to worry about getting your price so low because you're worried about your home value not being there after you buy it. You're not going to, this is not buying a new Chevy truck off the lot, and the day you drive it off the lot, it's worth significantly less. Your home's going to maintain its value wherever it's been held. And we've been showing that healthy market for some time now. So main thing is, let's take advantage of seller's equity and let's use some of that equity as some incentive in concession form and allowing you to buy your rate down. If you guys have questions on that specifically, I know this isn't a class on rate buy downs, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But again, that QR code that you guys saw earlier, hover over it, throw us a text, schedule a call. We can definitely explain those things at length for you as well, and helping 100%. You guys with your purchases.
Now, let me come back to our screen share here because I want to go ahead and I'm going to zoom in and let me change our view here a little bit, but there's going to be some good intel here for you. So I always like this part of our DMAR report because this really breaks down just in like plain English, kind of what's going on in the market here. So let me point out just a couple of things here, and I'll probably bounce back and forth with this here a little bit. But this was one thing I wanted to point out right here. Let me go ahead and zoom in. So it says the vast majority of homeowners are still well ahead financially. According to Zillow, only about 4% of homes are worth less than their original purchase price, meaning 96% still in a positive equity situation. Nationally, home prices are up nearly 49% over the past 5 years with double-digit appreciation across almost every market. So it's not just Colorado that's having this appreciation here, but that's one of the big reasons why this isn't a market that's going to crash, because homeowners can afford to have their home on the market for 3 months. They can afford to sit on it while maybe they move to a new home. And then this home's not costing them that much because they're one of the ones that have the 2.5% interest rate from when they bought it 5 years ago.
And just leaning back on that, when we talked about having a healthier market right now, where homes average, on the market right now are 2.5 months versus 3 weeks of inventory back during like the post-COVID time. So whether it's now or a year from now and you guys are looking at buying, you just have time to really strategize, and you've got time to just make sure that you want to do things right and do things the way that you feel. We've got some comments in here, buy. We should be the FOMO brothers. Like, yeah, you probably missed the first 5 minutes of our show. This is not a fear of missing out. We don't pitch that you guys need to buy right now. Like, do yourself diligence and just listen to the front part of the show where we talk about it. We don't care if you guys buy right now. We don't care if you buy a year from now. What you guys have to understand is the data. But the best thing about being a buyer right now is you have decisions. So there is no fear of missing out. There's fear of you actually have poise right now where you guys can make decisions and do your due diligence on areas. do your due diligence on finding the right home with a seller that's got the right circumstances that can contribute to your rate buy down, because a lot of homeowners are wanting to do that for you. But this is a time where you can make decisions. So the FOMO was post-COVID, and everyone thought they had to buy with a 1.9% interest rate. It's not. Now you've got poise. Now you've got time to make decisions. Now you can get creative with homeowners that are selling to you because they actually really want to buy right now. And it's great. But again, if it's not the right time for you, listen to the beginning of the show. This is not a fear of missing out. This is also not a negative show. So if we're just going to be smart Alex in the show, it's not going to fly well. You clearly don't know us very well. So be careful saying things like that.
And it's a good point because, we had some clients moving here recently and they weren't quite in a position where like they could have bought, but it had been forcing it a little bit. Right. Yep. And we had this conversation about renting for a year. And I'm like, hey, if this was 2020 and you're looking at renting for a year, you're paying 10% more that following year. And you might not even be able to afford it that following year because homes are appreciating so much. Right now, the way that we've seen things stabilize, if you rent for a year, you get your credit in order, you save up some more money for a down payment, you're not going to be in a worse spot a year from now if you're going to buy. And we have those conversations with clients all the time.
Well, listen, if you guys want FOMO, just go on Zillow and have a Zillow realtor call you. I mean, that's how they make their money, is by buying your information.
That's where you see that.
And then call you nonstop. Everything we do on YouTube is all free. It's all for you guys. We don't know your phone numbers. It's all on you guys to contact us. Everything that we do in real estate is all inbound. So definitely no FOMO. I know I'm beating a dead horse, but hey, we take a lot of pride in what we do, and that's definitely not how we work. We don't even know who you are unless you guys decide to contact, right? So there's definitely no pitch here. If you guys are looking for that, hop on Zillow's Instagram or hop on Zillow's app and have at it. And if you want that slanted market update, well, that's where you're going to find it, because people spend a lot of money buying your information to then harass you for 7 years until you buy a house with them, right?
Now, one thing that's just interesting, I'll read it because we're here, but not necessarily one of our data points. I think it's just an interesting thing to point out. It says multi-generational homes, as in those next-gen homes that you see. It's basically a home within a home, like a little studio apartment within a home. It says multi-generational homes continue to attract buyers. According to NAR, National Association of Realtors, 14% of buyers purchased a multi-generational home in 2024.
That is
I was so surprised to see that. Yeah.
And Eli, I will say credit to some of these new builders. They've gotten better making the next gen house. A lot of the ones that remember those first floor plans that were coming out. I mean, we were almost like shying clients away from those because we were concerned about their equity or their resellability. If they ever wanted to sell that home, they were looking at maybe having it for a couple of years, but they weren't sure if they'd have it much beyond that. And some of the floor plans were just robust. Some of them took a lot of space away from the primary living room. But they've really done a great job. And I don't mean all of them, but some of them have done a great job, especially like in Castle Rock over there. Is it Looking Glass that's got some of them over there?
Yeah, that is it. Yeah.
They've done a great job with the modern floor plans, how they work the second door in where you can have a separate entrance and exit for, that side of the house, but it doesn't take away from your primary living space in the main part of the house. It's aesthetically pleasing. I think partly is just that products become more attractive than the first generations of certain builders really doing that. It just, man, it wasn't hitting. I remember being really concerned for certain clients, but the new ones, man, have been a great experience.
Yeah, no, I agree, man. And speaking of new builds, this is one thing I wanted to point out right here. This says, according to Lennar's CEO, which Lennar is a giant nationwide builder, if you guys aren't familiar with them, the company cut prices over 10% last quarter to address affordability challenges, relying on buyer incentives while accepting lower profit margins. Guys, if you are looking for a deal right now, if you're looking for the biggest incentives, if you're looking for low monthly payments, new builds are the way to go. We've gotten clients down to like 3.8% fixed mortgages with incentives. If you're utilizing like a 3-2-1 buy down, we have some clients that were at like 1.99 the first year, 2.99 second year, 3.99 for year 3 moving forward. Just insane deals out there with new builds right now. Will, am I frozen right now?
Yeah, you're freezing up just a little bit, brother.
Oops. All right.
We'll try to exit off of that screen and go back to main, see if that helps.
There we go.
See if that helped a little bit.
Nope.
No, you're still frozen.
Yep. We'll keep talking here. I'll mess
we'll
with my camera.
We'll have to give you a great thumbnail for when you're frozen. And listen, if it's not the right time to buy for you, it's not the right time to buy for you, no problem. Where you are going to have a little bit of FOMO is with master plan communities and with new builds. And, what do I mean by that? Well, when you've got a slower paced market like we do right now, builders want to get rid of their inventory. They have to cash flow those homes and they got to reinvest into the next builds that they're going to do. They're going to give you those incentives of a 3-1 buy down, and you're going to start with a 1.9% interest rate. As the market picks up and as you have more buyers going out buying, and they don't have to throw that much incentive at people to continue to have a certain buying pace, they're just not going to throw it out there. And that's more B2B, right? Like you've got builders, it's a business for them. So they're going to incentivize where they have to, and they're not where they don't, right? It's just in new build communities, there are a lot of great ones. We've got a couple, man, that we are huge fans of. Toll Brothers. There's a couple of builders that we really
Shay. Yeah, Shay's a great one.
Builder.
Yeah.
So it's no knock on them. You guys just have to understand they're running a business. They have a pace of inventory that want to build and offload and cash flow that into their next development. And they have a certain pace that they want to hit and a certain quota that they want to hit. If that means they have to give out incentives to keep the pace up, they're going to do it. As more buyers come to the market and they don't have to throw all of that at people to get them to buy, they're just not going to do it. Not because they're jerks. They just don't have to do that to keep their pace up. When you're looking at pre-existing homes, well, this is where it comes down to the individual homeowner. Why are they selling? Are they downsizing because kids are going to college? Are they moving out of state, retiring in Florida? Did they have a career change or a job change and they have to sell within a certain amount of time? But this is where, regardless of market, when it comes to what new builds have to go through, your market with sellers is really circumstantial to their personal life and their circumstance, what's going on. That's also where you can get very creative. With our healthy market where things are at right now, with where home prices have held and people have equity, even if you guys miss out on some of the new build community or some of the lower rates, still plenty of opportunity when it comes to pre-existing and different incentives that will still be current through 2026 with some of these new builders. So main thing is attractive as a 1.9 can sound on an incentive with a new build. And man, maybe we should, if it's just not the right time though, like don't force yourself into a circumstance on a number, but it not be the right time and flow that you guys have, right? So no matter what, you guys are gonna be able to find some great opportunities in 2026 for sure.
Now let's do, we're going to talk interest rates here a little bit. Okay. So I want to give you guys a quick snapshot of where we ended 2025 with interest rates, and then lay out a few different scenarios of what could potentially happen in 2026 based on a few different cases. Okay. So in 2025, Freddie Mac ended 30-year fixed interest rates at 6.15%. That's the lowest they've been in all of 2025. Between 2023 and 2025, they got as high as about 8%. On average, they were about 7%. And then earlier this year, they started dropping below 7%. Now we're in the lower 6s. Okay. So that's really made a little bit of an uptick, and I'd say more of an optimistic attitude for both buyers and sellers in general, since they're getting down into the lower 6s. Now, the Redfin is predicting in 2026, they're going to stay at an average of about 6.3. They're not predicting that it's going to go into the 5s. They're also not thinking it's going to go back up. So more or less just stability there. Now, to lay out a couple different scenarios, here's what I think is most likely to happen. And we'll kind of go over 3 of these. So if the interest rates stay around 6 to 6.5, you are going to see slightly more buyer activity, but there is still going to be room for negotiations with sellers, concessions from sellers, and major incentives from builders we're going to see. That's what I think is honestly the most likely case. And honestly, a lot of the sticker shock has just worn off for buyers. You know, when they shot up to 7 and 8%, major sticker shock. It was crazy how much, you know, you're looking at even on a $600,000 house, how much that payment is when your interest rate is 8%. Now it's a lot more palatable at 6%. So a lot of that sticker shock is worn off. Now, let's say in a scenario where they drop to anything with a 5 in front of it, I think there's so much pent up buyer demand. There's even more pent up buyer demand than during COVID time. I think you will see a big influx of buyers and you will start getting into multiple offer scenarios. But I honestly don't think it's going to be as bad as COVID, because interest rates still aren't going to be 2%, right? Or 3%. There's still like, it's not going to be insane. That's, I think, best case scenario for sellers anyway. If we're looking in the mid 6s, if it does what Redfin says it's going to do and stay in that, let's say 6.3 to 6.8 range, you know, but still staying under 7, I think we're just going to have another stable year. You're going to see moderate buyer activity. There's a lot of buyers, guys, right now that just need to move. You know, it's been
Yeah, I mean, they're
4
talking about
years
like
of
a
high
30%
interest rates.
increase in 2026 as far as buyers.
Yeah,
And like,
touch on that. Yeah.
yeah, and like, when we and numbers are hard to grasp at scale, even for myself. And hey, what's a 30% increase in buyers look like across the country? And on average, we've been roughly selling about 4 million homes across the country. And that's significantly low compared to our normal average, even prior to post-COVID. So prior to the market exploding, 1.9% interest rates, et cetera, roughly there'd be 7 million homes sold across the country, right? And it's gotten as low as 4 and even a bit below 4. So even getting into 5 million or 5.5 million homes sold in the country for 2026, let's say we increase by 1.5 million, we're still not back to where we used to be, but it's going to feel like a boom because of how low it's been on a regular, right? So what we try to talk about is just things that are subjective to what we've normally felt and what that increase looks like for you. But the biggest thing is you might get some more competitiveness 27, 28. I like where we're at. I like when things are healthy, man. I don't, when we were helping folks in post-COVID and people wanted to buy sight unseen, it was like, no, we're not doing that. We will go view it. We'll get some video content for you. And we did a great job, and folks were still happy with what they bought. I like when buyers can make better decisions. I don't like buyer's remorse. I don't like buying out of a pace or this false necessity that they need. I like when buyers can make decisions and look at areas and really digest what they're looking at. I love that. And I also love when sellers also know that they're going to be buying after they sell. And even the homes that we have active on the market right now, Eli, we've got handfuls of listings right now. We sold a ton last year. Sellers by nature right now are just more proactive in their strategy with where can they help buyers be proactive, what they can do to make their house the most competitive. And they're just wanting to work with buyers more. They want to make sure they're doing all they can because they're grateful of buyers in a market that's more healthy versus post-COVID. People weren't even caring about who the buyer was, and they weren't even cleaning their house before they moved out.
Yeah.
Who cares? And it was like, no, man, you should care. And and when you get to a place like we're at right now where it's more healthy and sellers have to be proactive and buyers have opportunities to make the right decisions, I feel like just the entire transaction and getting back to why we buy homes in the first place. And we can talk equity, we can talk rates, we can talk things all we want. We raise our kids in our homes. I've got 3 kids right now, and I love the schools that they're at, and I love the clubhouses we're involved in. I love my neighbors. We're raising our family here, right? And we had the opportunity to make the decision to buy the home that we wanted and do our due diligence to the neighborhood and get to know some folks. And that was a great experience. And a lot of times when we're looking at these 2026 market updates, or we're looking at where it's been since, 2020, and we're talking dividends versus real estate, and it's all great stuff. I just don't ever want to miss the fact of what got us in real estate. I don't ever want to miss the fact of what matters beyond the numbers, and that's people being able to have the opportunity to make the right decision on where they're going to spend their time in their life. And again, even if you're selling, you're going somewhere and you want to be afforded the same opportunity to create the same thing in the next chapter of your life. And we can't overlook that, right? So that's why I like where we're at now versus when things are just flying off the shelves. I get that. That's a money grab, and everyone loves that. We're healthy. We've been healthy even during these slower years. You and I've done a great job with that, and that customer experience matters, right? And people being able to make that decision matters.
Now, as we're closing out, Mike, you asked a great question here, and it helps me perfect transition into the next topic I want to talk about. But Mike mentions that he's retiring end of May. He's looking for new builds if rates are low and incentives are good. Is that timeline good, or should I wait? Most concerning issue are property taxes. So let's put those in 2 different buckets. Let's talk timing first, then we'll talk property taxes. So as far as timing goes, again, I think if we're staying in the low to mid 6s throughout 2026, builders are going to have plenty of incentives for you. First of all, there's going to be plenty of inventory for you to look at as far as new builds, and you will not find a better deal in the Colorado housing market than with a new build with incentives. Okay, again, people are getting as low as $199, $299, $399. That's about as best as you can do with a builder. On average, I'd say we're seeing in the 4s. I'd say mid 4s is on average across the board what we're seeing with interest rate incentives from builders.
Correct.
And that's going to be all year long.
Influx in buyers, like if you're looking at May, you're still going to have some great incentives. We've seen an increase this first quarter in buyers already. We've got handfuls of clients under contract right now. But across the state, we haven't seen so much to where you think like builders are just going to be pulling those incentives next week.
No.
I feel like May is still a great timeline.
Man, and even just to give you a real life scenario here, we've got some clients that are they're selling their home in Tennessee, right? They're
Wow.
contingent on selling that home in order to buy a new one. And these in the past, builders are like, they won't even entertain a contingency. They're like, get your house under contract, then we'll talk. So nowadays we are seeing them more than happy to entertain contingencies. But what was unique about these ones is, or this particular client, is this builder said their house wasn't even under contract yet. They said, hey, let's go under contract. We'd love to work with you.
Yeah.
Go ahead and get your home on the market. We'll give you 60 days to find a buyer. And then at the end of the 60 days, if you don't have your house under contract, you get your entire earnest money back and we'll let you out of the contract with no problem.
And that is 100% predicated on builders are okay to work with buyers in those circumstances because they'll do a little bit more to get good buyers. They know
100%.
There's great buyers that just haven't sold their house yet. They know they're going to get their house sold and they're just more willing when there's a necessity. So again, like builders are amazing. They're not out here to get you. I know there's been some nightmare stories. We help you guys. We protect you guys with that stuff as well. By nature, they're just going to throw incentives based off of keeping their cadence and their pace up with how they need to sell homes and getting homes on the book and then off those books, right? I think you're talking about the gentlemen or the folks that are they going to Ridgegate with Infinity Homes?
Yes. No, down south, the Canyons. Yeah. With Bay. Yes.
But I'm also thinking of the folks from Infinity Homes.
Yeah. Shout out to those guys.
Those guys are amazing. They were also selling they were in a very similar circumstance.
Yep. And on top of that, that was $25,000 off list price of the home and $60,000 in interest rate buy down incentives or closing cost coverage. So just they're open to this. And really that's where, not to make it seem like you guys need to use us or anything, but that's where having an agent represent you on the new build side is really good because we can have these conversations. We know how builders negotiate and we can preemptively like start these conversations with builders and get some of these things that maybe you're just not going to even think to ask. Not that they wouldn't give it to you, but that you might not even think to ask for when you're going into.
If you don't ask for it, they're not going to give it to you. That's for sure. And we've got great relationships with Toll Brothers, Infinity Homes, Shea Homes. We've got, on average, I think last year we sold 140 homes and we had at least 50 of those going to new builds.
There was a lot. Maybe
familiar
more
with those contracts. You guys also have to understand that those contracts are different than the Colorado State contract. It's a builder contract. There's some different things, but we've got great relationships there. We also have sometimes where they'll have a home under contract with a buyer. Something happens, it has to fall under contract. We're the first ones they call to see if we have a buyer for them because we brought them so many buyers. So a lot of times we can actually get access to some of these recently put back on market homes that could be exactly what you need in the time frame that you need it. And it's not online, it's not on Zillow, it's not on the MLS yet. And they just want to get out there to close proximity of realtors that they work with to see if they can't get it put under contract within a 24-hour to 40-hour time frame so they don't have to put it back on the market. They can keep it on the book. So there's even opportunities there, not to give you more fear of missing out, right? You're going to miss some of my humor. You're going to miss a good time if you're not working with us. But, and listen, all jokes aside, whether it's now or a year from now, you guys make sure you're prepared, have the conversations. Okay. Call, text, email, have conversations with us. Let's just make sure that we're asking the right questions this year. If you're considering buying, at least start the conversation to your circumstances, to what you're looking for, and then figure out where you can lean some things in your favor. And then if those things are in your favor, are ideal for a circumstance in 26, great. If they're not, make those calls. But it's better to make decisions whether you're buying or whether you're going to wait. Turn the stones, get real information, talk to some professionals, make sure that you guys at least have as much information as you need outside of clickbait online or news links and things like that. Just have people help you with your circumstances personally and making sure that, again, whether it's waiting or not, you've got as much information as you need to actually make that educated decision.
Now, talking a little bit more just about general Colorado market, let's kind of lay out the calendar year here a little bit. Okay. So from January to end of February, things are going to be ramping up for both buyers and sellers. Everyone, we're done with the holidays. People are already starting to get cabin fever a little bit. You're starting to see a little bit of an uptick, right? But you're not really seeing the kickoff of the early spring market until shortly after Super Bowl, usually about a week or two after the Super Bowl. You're seeing the early spring market start to kick off. That's really when people got cabin fever. They're getting a little anxious. They've paid off their Christmas credit card debt, and they're getting anxious to get out and do something. You're going to see a slow ramp up from, let's call it March through April and May and June. And now we're starting to get into the real spring and summer market. That's going to progressively start increasing with more homes and more buyer activity up until about mid-August. and then it's going to jump off a cliff. And pretty much end of August and September is very quiet on the seller front, very quiet on the buyer front. And then notoriously, every October, November through the first 2 weeks of December, there's a big rush again, almost like the early springtime. It's that fourth quarter. Everyone wants to buy or sell their new home prior to the holidays, right? People want to get into their house for Thanksgiving. They are envisioning the Christmas tree in the new home, whether they're buying or selling. There's a lot of activity. Typically, Will and I's busiest quarter is fourth quarter, surprisly.
Yeah, the summertime folks love going on vacations. You know, you get your last vacation at the end of the summer. You're getting kids registered for school. Everybody's kind of getting settled in. You'll have that. Fourth quarter is notoriously busy.
Yep.
I will say, just per data, you and I are having the busiest first quarter we've ever had. And I've been around for 8 years. You've been around for just about 10. We're a week into January. And between the under contract homes closing in January and the under contract homes we have closing in February, we are having our biggest first quarter we've ever had in our careers. And we do pretty solid every year. This is significantly bigger than we've ever had. And we're a week into January.
Yep.
Right. So we still got March to fill.
Well, dude, and I think that comes down to all the pent up buyer demand that we have. You know, interest rates have been so dang high for so long that you get to a point and buyers and sellers like, I have to do something. I can't keep, you know, the rates are better now. So it's like they've waited out the peak rates. But
you got better rates plus new build incentive buy downs, or better rates plus sellers giving you some compensation on concessions to buy your rate down a little bit more. So even on pre-existing homes, it's not crazy to think you can get to the lower mid fours as well with a 2-point buy down. So there is a lot, right? So again, whether it's FOMO, however you guys want to digest it or not, however you want to take it. I'm not a big believer in FOMO. I'm a big believer in circumstantial for what works best for you. However, there's just some things about numbers and things about having a significantly bigger first quarter in the now than the past 8 years of us doing this at a consistent basis. That says the more and more consistently we build through the year, the less and less certain incentives are going to be out there with pre-existing homes or new builds, because they just don't have to incentivize buyers, you know, as much to buy, because you have more buyers that are looking at those homes, right? So it's all just an ebb and flow and where you guys decide to time it. But again, I don't think it's going to be getting so far to where if you guys aren't buying next week, you're missing incentives. I don't think so at all. I think that question about May and retiring, I think you're in a great spot. Throw a call to Eli or myself. Let's chat about it.
Yep.
Either way, I think it's definitely great to at least start the conversation in 26 as far as what you're looking for, though.
And then Mike, regarding property taxes. So on a new build, what Mike is referencing here, on a new build, guys, interest rates are going to be roughly 1%. When you look at, you know, a 30-year-old neighborhood, it might be closer to 0.5 or maybe 0.6%. So you are going to have higher taxes, property taxes in these brand new master plan communities. But I would say the biggest thing with that, man, is you're looking at the offset of interest rate incentives that you're able to get from the builder. And in my opinion, one of the biggest annual savings amount on a new home is the upkeep, right? You've got all new major mechanical, you've got a new roof, you've got a new house. If you're buying that 30-year-old home for the low interest rates, inevitably you're going to be replacing the roof, you're going to be replacing the furnace, the water heater, all those things. I know that's kind of a little thing, but when you're looking at, you know,
Eli did that on his home this past year, so like he's talking from.
I did. It's sensitive right now. Yeah, I'm sensitive right now about it. But it's one of those things where, you know, you're talking a few $1,000s a year, you know, difference. And it is significant, but it's all a trade-off, just like anything, right? I think being able to get an interest rate in the mid-4s from a builder, I would take that plus high property taxes any day versus lower property taxes. But now I'm stuck, you know, paying 6.5% on an interest rate.
Well, and the incentive there too, Eli, is your first year or two, you might have lower taxes on that new build because it's still being assessed based off of the land value.
Yep.
You actually haven't assessed all the property values yet. So depending on when you're getting into your new build community, you might have a year or two with very low taxes until property assessments catch up, because they've got enough development in that neighborhood. They properly assess it, and then you go ahead and have your normal property
100%.
tax. And we have seen property taxes decrease in new build communities that have matured. I used to live in one of them. Once things are built, schools are built, roads are built, they do tend to decrease a bit. You will get some savings there. and you'll have some savings on the front end again, depending on how early you get into that new build. But again, guys, whatever it is, make sure it fits your circumstances and the different moves that you guys are trying to make, whether it's selling something and buying, whether you're a first-time home buyer, whatever it may be. Just make sure you're turning stones, asking questions, booking these calls, and making sure that we can help you the best that we can. Or if you guys have other folks, obviously we'd love to earn your business. Just other folks helping you. That's amazing as well. We've also got great relocation guides and great area guides. Every Tuesday we come on live, guys, and we talk about these. This is our 40-page mobile friendly. It's free. It's for you. It covers everything you're going to want to know when it comes to relocating to Denver or the Colorado area, right? If you're still in Colorado right now and you're staying in Colorado, there's just a lot of great things in this relocation guide that would still pertain to you. Either way, it's free. It's for you. It's a lot of fun. Covers a lot of things that you might not be thinking of, and just another resource that you guys can use as far as helping you with your process.
That's all we got for today, guys.
Right on.
Appreciate y'all being here. Again, we're live here every Tuesday, guys. And, we are live. This isn't a pre-recording or anything like that. We're here. In
I said FOMO 20 times now because I saw someone say we're just here to try to get you guys into FOMO. You guys can tell I took that a little personal. Like, no, it's not true. Go listen to the beginning of the show. But, guys, we do this for free. We do it for you. And we don't help you unless you guys reach out. This is not something that the second you signed on, we got your phone numbers, and now we're going to call you every day like a Zillow agent.
I wish.
It's not. Everything is inbound. We're allowing you guys to contact us when you see fit, 100%. Right? So we're the least for that. But it is, it is appropriate to say when things are making an adjustment and there are opportunities like these new build communities and like everything else that's going on, it is okay to say, hey, it's not FOMO. Make the right decision for you at the right time. But there is some cool stuff right now you might want to look at, though. Totally. It's completely okay to say that because as much as timing is predicated ultimately on you and what you're comfortable with, there are some things that happen in certain, like Black Friday. Yeah, it's a little busy. It's kind of cool to buy something on Black Friday, though. You might save a little. As much as FOMO, I don't know, like go figure. But, the point is there's some cool things going on in 2026. If it's the right time for you or not, let's not blanket statement FOMO. Let's start asking questions and then really figure out, are the incentives and opportunities worth it to make that decision in 26? Or do I wait? You're not going to know that answer unless you're actually diving in and getting your due diligence from something beyond clickbait on social media or making accusatory statements, right? And Mike, most welcome, dude. We love seeing you.
Good to see you, man.
Your support.
Yeah, and man, Chevy Cheyenne, thanks for chiming in, man. Yeah, sounds like you've got some awesome homes that you're doing super well on here in Colorado, man. I might have to go start looking at getting a rental in Strasburg. That's really cool seeing your numbers.
And if you don't mind, hit me up. Just look up Will Grimes on Instagram. Happy to connect. Throw me a direct message. Happy to connect. I love to chat some cars with you. I saw the Chevy Cheyenne 21. I'm like, man, he might have a cool Chevy. So that'd be a lot of fun. Either way, you guys will be back next Tuesday on another live, but we've also got another video coming out this Saturday. It's really fun. We might be talking Texas. We might be talking Colorado. Whether you're in Texas or not, a lot of it's going to pertain to just what you guys are looking for. And there's a slew of other videos you guys can catch, but we launch new ones every Saturday, and then we're on live every Tuesday at 6 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. Next week, what do we got for me? Let's throw a little teaser. I know we got a fun one next week.
Oh, man. Dude, so there are a couple new developments that are popping up that we're going to be diving into. Some commercial. We'll have an update on the Broncos Stadium, and then who knows, some other good stuff from there. But definitely some good stuff coming next week for you guys.
Chevy Cheyenne, look up Will_Grimes or just look up Will Grimes. You should be able to find it, man. We've got a decent following on Instagram. I should be one of the first that pop up. And, man, just throw me a DM so we can connect. That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Cool.
Perfect.